Hi, everyone. Well, thank you again for joining us. If you just logged in, thank you for participating in customer culture to achieve amazing customer experiences. What I want to do today is introduce our fabulous presenter, Tracy Steers. She's an MBA, and she's one of our certified customer service manager advanced graduates, and she is the operations coordinator for the city and county of Denver clerk and recorder. Tracy has had an opportunity to work in all of the various roles within the clerk and recorder's office, giving her a unique opportunity to experience the role that customer experience plays from each area of the business. And she is very passionate about customer service and customer experience, which, as her coach, I can attest to. She is excessively thorough, does her research, and is very interested in ensuring that she dots her I's and crosses her T's, which will come across in what we're talking about today and why I thought she'd be so valuable for all of our participants to listen to today. I love that she claims she is lucky enough to have a leadership team that shares her passion in everything that they do and every improvement they make, and how important it is for the purpose of improving customer experience. As you know, the customer experience is very different for internal customer than for external customers, but the customer experiences are also very different for customers in each division, because each customer has different needs and expectations, and I know all of you know that. Flexibility is therefore necessary to provide exceptional customer service in today's business environment, and it's incumbent upon us as leaders to foster that flexibility and passion to those that we serve. So I can't think of anybody better to do that for us than our presenter, Tracy, today. And one thing I do want to mention about Tracy before I hand it over to her is that she likes dynamic and engaging presentations. So if and when you guys have questions, please don't feel like you need to save those till the end. Absolutely jump in, ask the questions, and then you can go to the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. It'll pop up there, and you can go ahead and type in any of the questions that you have, and I can feed those to Tracy as we go. So Tracy, with that, thank you for being here, and I will hand it over to you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for Christine, and thank you for having me here. I'm honored and excited. I hope you all are as well. As Christine said, I like engaging and interactive presentation. So please, if you have something to add or questions anywhere along the line, please interrupt. I'm happy to let you jump in. To that end, let's get started. So let's start off with the negative stuff. Have you ever had a bad customer experience? To remember and share it with everybody. Some popular responses we have: why can't they just open another register? Who's in charge around here? Does anyone actually work here? Why can't we ever find someone to help us when we come here? You might remember a commercial that we've seen about a hardware store where she finds someone to help finally, and he can only talk about flowers. Now, whether we mean to or not, we share bad experiences, more so than we do good experiences. You might recall comments like, "Do you know what happened to me at the store yesterday?" "No, I'm still waiting for them to call me back." They didn't even care about what I've said. She was on the phone and said that I was rude for interrupting her. He said they were out of stock. They wouldn't even check the other stores. Oh, my mother-in-law actually told me the other day, "Oh, we don't shop there anymore because the restrooms are dirty." You may recall those kinds of comments that we've made ourselves or heard, because a bad experience will resonate with us much longer than a good experience. So you sit there and tell yourself, then why the good experience? Because we also share the bad experiences way more often than the good ones. So what's more important in business today than customer experience? In your line of work, is it the bottom line, the profits, the sales, or the revenue? Well, guess what drives every single one of these things? It's the customer experience. So our top priority should be customer experience. Well, can't you just be nice to people and hope they'll come? You might have heard, if you build it, they will come. That's a quote from Field of Dreams. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, pick it up. Okay, so how do we go about building it? You have to create that climate. Everyone in your organization must live, love, eat, drink, and sleep customer experience. Identify your barriers and then overcome them with style and grace. So how does your organization work together to support the customer experience? Create a chain of support. You'll see the chain of support here for providing a marriage license to customers. What happens if any one of these areas goes down? Qmatic is our queuing system. If that's disrupted, customers have no idea what to do. They just mill around and kind of get in a line. So it's important for our organization to keep that Qmatic going. What happens if computers go down? That's even worse because they can't get their marriage license. Understand that part of getting married is getting that license, and a lot of people come in the same day as their wedding day. This is the most important day of their lives right now. They might not be in the end, but right now, getting married is the most important thing on their minds. They don't care about our problems. They don't care if our printers go down, or if we lose printer drivers, or if our system's down for hours. They don't care. They just know that they had a bad experience. So we have to find ways and know the plan in order to alleviate potential disasters before they happen. And this is what every one of us has to do in every one of our businesses. This is only one particular thing that my office does. And you can see how many ways it can go terribly wrong. But we're prepared for each one of them.
So Tracy, this is Christine, can I just stop you for a quick second? Going back to that was very detailed, and I like how you looked at, okay, what internally could happen that would affect the customer experience. And you're down to like, you lost a printer driver, which, you know, maybe that happens a lot, maybe it doesn't, but you're really down to that kind of minutia. Have you done this for all of the customer-facing experiences that your office handles? And, you know, why did you decide to do that if you did?
Couple of things. Yes, we've done this for each of the products and services that we provide. We've done that so that we could be prepared and we actually have plans for what happens when something goes down. You'll notice managers in a meeting. The reason that's on there is because there are certain things the managers have to do because they are the only ones with access, for example, to certain areas to reset. So we have to know, and we have plans in place to attack every single one of these possible things that goes wrong. Things don't go wrong very often, but we've actually gone through the process of figuring this out so that we could create a plan of action before any one of these things go down. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it sure does. I think that this is something that, is this something that you've always had in place, or is this something that you brought to them, Tracy?
No, we did this as part of my objective to become a customer service manager with the CSM course.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because I knew it looked familiar, but I wasn't sure if this was part of like that touchline mapping activity that you guys did and looking at the service chain diagram. And so you found that was valuable enough to incorporate that throughout all your interactions. That's great.
Absolutely. And you'll learn how to do this. If you're not already in the program and haven't already taken the course, you will learn how to do this for all of the areas of your business. Because yes, that's where I learned how to do all of these things through each of the tasks.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate it.
Great question. Thank you. So you want to ask yourself in your organization, do you have customer experience strategy, or do you just expect it to work out if you're nice to customers? Do you have a plan of interaction? Or do you have just basic guidelines for existence in your organization? We kind of let things flow and they work pretty well. Do you address customers as they come in the door? Or do customers sometimes just come and go, and sometimes they never actually interact with anyone? Is someone actually assigned to phones and to entrances? Or does whoever happens to be available answer the phone, and, maybe whoever sees the customer service says hi? Not bad things, but maybe it could be a little more organized. Can your staff be found by a customer easily? Or are your staff busy, just doing their job somewhere out of sight? Sometimes we get so busy doing our jobs, we forget about the customers that need our help. So have you looked at whose job it is for customer service? Is that just the customer-facing team or everyone? In your organization, you have to look at and determine just how deep that lineup for customer experience should go. My hint, it's everybody's job, top to bottom. Does every role contribute to customer experience? If not, why not? And is it really necessary to the organization? Don't just give up and discount the support roles in your organization, because there are internal customers too. And what needs to change to realign your organization's roles so that everybody understands their contribution to that experience? Even our accountant has customer service role, even though she's in an office clear in the back, hidden away and tucked away from everybody. She actually has to come out and deal with customers who have lost their houses through foreclosure. Their house is sold at auction, but when their overbid proceeds, she's the one that has to come out and deal with them. Understand, these people are in probably one of the worst places in their lives. They've lost their house. They are not sure what's going to happen, but the overbid proceeds from that auction of their house gives them an opportunity to get their life started again. And that's what she alone, it has to deal with those customers, because nobody else handles those funds. We noticed that some customers were having some difficulty getting their funds, because we have people who would contact them and say, for a fee, I can get those overbid proceeds for you. Well, customers can come in and get those overbid proceeds all by themselves with no additional charges. They get the entire amount. We passed legislature to make sure it's harder for those, what should we call them, shysters, for them to be able to get a hold of those customers, and for their overbid proceeds to be able to be sent to the state quicker, so the state doesn't allow for that middleman. The state also doesn't charge a fee for them to get those funds. This makes more funds available to someone who's in that situation and has lost their house. Just to give you an example of some of the things that we've done here to improve that customer experience, even when the experience is going to be bad no matter what.
So, sorry, Tracy, I wanted to jump in again with
a
couple of questions. So, in a lot of organizations, customer service doesn't always get a seat at the table. So what I mean by that is organizations, when you say, hey, it's everybody's job, you know that, and I know that, and probably most everyone on this call knows that, but it's not always so simple to get the buy-in from everyone. So can you tell me how You know, it sounds like you have a team that's very supportive, but I mean, were there challenges for you in going through the process where you were like trying to get attention and really trying to ensure that everyone understood that, hey, it is everyone's job, whether you're servicing internal customers or external customers, there's a place for you in this service chain and you need to understand what it is. How were you able to get everyone on side with that and get people to start paying attention to that?
Thank you. That's a great question. And frankly, it's a lot easier as you're training customer experience when you dissect the positions and what they actually do and the roles they have in their job. For example, an accountant would be expected to be back in their office not really doing anything in terms of interacting with the external customers. But when we actually diced up her job and saw what she's doing, she has a ton of interaction with other parts of the organization, which, by the way, are customers. They're just internal customers. She has a ton of interaction for vendors who she has to pay, for example. Again, those are also customers. They're what we call internal customers because they aren't here to drop money here. They're here to drop their services. Okay? So they're still customers. It's in the issue of identifying who your customers are. And we also have to not forget that our internal customers are our staff, our own people. Once you make everybody aware of what customer experience is in all of its forms, and that's a lot of education and helping people to understand their jobs fully and how they fit with external customers as well as internal customers. And that's just an education thing.
Okay, so it's really about trying to open up the dialogue as best you can with the right person or somebody that maybe does have a seat at the table that can be your advocate or your champion in that area to help get you to be accessible to some of that or participate in some of those conversations.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And in this role that I'm in here at the City and County of Denver, that's very easy to do because from the mayor all the way down to the part-time staff, the messaging is all about, because we're nonprofit, we're government, it's not about the bottom line for us. It's how do we help our constituents. It's all about customer service. In other positions I've held outside of this one, it's a little harder to help people to recognize how someone who's actually locked away from customers has to do with customers. And that's a matter of, again, education and learning the real definition of customers.
Yeah, and I think that that's an interesting point that you bring up because you're coming to it with a totally different outlook from me, where I would say, well, you're government. Why do you care what the customer experience is, right? I think a lot of us can say, well, I know how long I put off maybe going to the post office or the DMV or, any time you're dealing with the government for a lot of things, certainly for a lot of us, doesn't seem to be any type of urgency necessarily or desire to improve the customer experience unless it's one person who just is passionate that way. So I love to hear that you have the City of Denver has a totally different take on that, where organizations that are profitable, which I know we have a lot of people on this call that, they're working for-profit organizations. Do you think, to me, that would be more of a no-brainer? Because as you mentioned in the beginning, Tracy, you said that the bottom line is affected directly by the customer experiences you have. And certainly that's something, and some of you will know this, of talking about the financial cost of bad service and how having poor customer experience definitely costs, not just in customer loyalty, but in so many other areas through employee engagement and small mistakes that are made or inefficiencies in processes, how much that's actually costing the business. So it's interesting that as a government organization, you guys can see that, but sometimes the for-profit organizations don't, and I feel like they're the ones that really should. So it's interesting.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, I had a really hard time with the CCSM program initially, because I'm like, okay, I, like most people, are like, we're a government. Our hands are tied on what services and what products we can provide. We can't expand that. We can't, entirely. We're just, statutes got us tied down. And that was addressed, I believe, in the very first module. And that's where I turned around. And it's all about the customer experience, more than even in retail or for-profit organization, because we are tied to exactly what statute will allow us to do, and therefore we can only compete on the services we provide. And it's not like a lot of competition, because people do have to come to us for what they need. We're the only ones that provide it. As the clerk and recorder, you can't record your real estate documents anywhere else. So it's not a matter of competition as much as in a for-profit business. It's about helping people to understand we're here to help them. We're here to serve.
Great. Thank you, Tracy.
Oh, absolutely. So next I want to talk about your customer service challenges. And this is for each and every business to explore what kind of challenges does your organization have in providing awesome customer service. And they'll be surprising to you. Because until you actually sit down and think about it, you have no idea that you've got ego issues. What? Us? Ego issues? No, we love our customers. Really? So what about those people, those staff who in their will to be nice worry about, oh, they're getting more customers than I am, or they get more opportunities to do great things? Are we giving our staff enough time to give great customer service? Do all your staff and all your team have the resources that they need for great customer service? Do you have technology that is technology for technology's sake? Or are you improving your technology specifically to help customers? Training. Does your staff have enough training? Do they want more training? Do they want more education? Is weather a challenge for you? In Colorado, it could be a challenge any day. We had snow on Monday. Yesterday, it was a beautiful sunshiny day, and it will be today. It could snow at any minute. We go through all 4 seasons in a day. It's fun, but it can be a challenge. And finally, empowerment. Are your team empowered enough to give great customer service? If a customer has a problem, can your team fix it? Or do they have to go get permission to fix it? Just consider those things. I want to talk about a customer service manager and some of the things that you should strive to have as a customer service manager. And if you don't have these skills, that's okay. Work on them. Any industry, any type of business will require these skills. Superior writing skills. That can be improved, and there are classes you can take. Superior verbal skills. Practice them. If you're afraid of public speaking, fix that. Do it lots. I love microphones. I love public speaking. But it's the number one fear that people have. Computer skills. Again, if you don't have them, get them. Conflict resolution skills. Everybody that's going to be in customer service needs to have conflict resolution skills, because a conflict arises out of nothings. Customers and staff alike can create a conflict over appearance or crazy things. Empathy, coaching, and training skills. Always be empathetic. Always be able to coach effectively and to train. You need to have analytical skills and motivation skills. Know how to motivate people. You have to know how to create objectives and assess the progress against those objectives. And you'll probably do well to have some industry-specific skills. Just saying. Any other thoughts? Anything that I left off, anybody wants to share? So let's talk about your onboarding. Does your organization have an onboarding process? Because it's really best to. Because if your new hires come in and they're just shown a desk and said, okay, here you go, welcome, I'll be in my office. Know that when a new hire comes on board, they're taking notes on how they're treated. And that's what they see as as your organization's standard for customer experience. It's really important that you communicate the right messages by your actions.
Hey, Tracy, can I just jump in for 1 second on the onboarding process?
Please, that would be awesome.
Have you always had a formal onboarding process?
Oh, that's a great question. We have had an onboarding process because it goes through other departments in the city. Unfortunately, that hasn't always been as clean or as precise as it can be. What I mean by that is we just went through, in the last 3 to 6 months, a complete overhaul of our onboarding process in our HR department. That's within the city, because the processes we've had in the past were not being followed. So people would come on board and basically be told, that's going to be your desk and your phone and your computer, but you don't have access to any of them. So just kind of sit there until we get that. 2 or 3 days later, they get their computer accesses, maybe a phone access. So they are well aware of what the employee handbook says because they've had 3 days to read it, because that's all they could do. So huge changes have come across from the Office of Human Resources, OHR, and within our own department, we have sat down and created an onboarding process, and with a timeline in getting all of their accesses, computers, all that stuff going before they actually show up for the first day. A lot of that came about because of the customer service management course. Because part of that course is to tighten up, or teaches you how to tighten up your onboarding process and make sure that there's a process and that it's a good process.
Yeah, I appreciate it, because as we do a lot of certifications for organizations, and the thing is the nice thing about our business and the bad thing is that we typically get called by organizations who are always trying to do better, which means that they're already doing a pretty good job. So we have the luxury of going into these businesses who are already really focused on customer experience and want to be recognized for that and make sure they're doing everything right. So that's great for us. But what I'm always surprised at is the percentage and the high number or the high percentage of how many of these organizations do not have a robust or formalized onboarding process, like you said. And I think when you said, hey, that really sets the tone for how they're going to approach their job in the workplace, and how they, their experience there kind of just demonstrates for them, well, this must be what we're supposed to do, or like that it's okay to kind of just have it be not our best. And so I just find it fascinating that the first experience tends to be that way, even in these companies who are like considered some of the best of the best. So, I mean, anybody listening, I mean, if you don't have a really robust onboarding process, believe me, you're not even close to alone, or if it's something new that you're tackling. But I wanted to bring that up because I think a lot of organizations that don't have it think, well, gosh, we're so behind, we don't have that. But it's not really the case, because there are so many people that don't. And I think it's always a work in progress, because your organization's constantly changing. So an onboarding process that's done, once it's up to date, current, you get it where you want it to be. It's always one of those dynamic processes that just need to keep changing to ensure that it's meeting the need of the new team member and for what the organization's doing. So I'm glad you inserted this into the presentation, because I think that this is really key, and it's kind of like the first date, right? I mean, you're trying to showcase what the organization is and how you do things, and it's not always the best example for some of the team members coming on board. So thanks for adding that in there.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And it's like running a business out of your house, and your front yard's a mess and everything's overgrown and your front door looks nasty, and you have someone come in to help you with your business, but this is what they come to, and they're kind of like, I'm not sure I want to work here. Your new people coming on board, even if you have a really nice digs and a really great business, if you're not welcoming them in and getting them right on board and have a process for it, that's when they start to wonder, did I make the right decision? So, and as Christine said, it's not too late. Okay, lots of companies, we had an onboard process. It just wasn't wonderful. Okay, know that it is evergreen. It will continue to change, and you will make things better every day. Thank you. Part of that hiring is hire for attitude. You've heard it before, hire for attitude and train for skills. A candidate that has a great attitude is going to learn how to be an excellent employee. But a bad attitude is difficult to break, and the damage they cause to your customer experience is hard to clean up. I said it earlier, I just touched on it, but continue providing training even after your staff is trained. Give your teams an opportunity to always be learning, because a continuously learning staff is an engaged staff. Offer a wide selection of classes. Look into arrangements with organizations that can get your team trained in whatever they want to be trained in. We work with Skillsoft here at the city. We can take classes and get certified in literally anything, even if it has nothing to do with our job. Because curiosity is a good thing, and you'd be amazed at what an employee brings to the table that they didn't have skills in before. And understand, long-term training is long-term sustainability. Any questions on that? Excellent. Well, we're talking about training Analyze your processes and make it easy for customers to do business with you. In the city and county of Denver, 90% of the staff are Green Belt certified. That just means we've all been trained methods of streamlining the processes to remove the waste. It saves money and all the staff are comfortable because they have a clearly defined method for improving processes, so they always look for ways to make it easier to do their jobs. We're humans, we're lazy. We want our jobs to be easier than they are right this minute. Not only do we have 90% of our entire city staff is Green Belt trained, we have several black belts. In the clerk and recorder's area alone, we probably have 6 black belts. I'm one of them. 6 Sigma certification. Or just analyze your processes and cut out the unimportant, non-customer centric, unnecessary stuff. The stuff that's, well, we've always done it that way before. Get rid of stuff like that. Find a way to make it easier, make it better for your customer. And if these particular theories and philosophies are news to you, that's okay. You'll learn about them if you didn't already in the Customer Service Manager program. They go over this stuff and teach you some of this stuff. Laying out your processes by task is real simple. This is just one of our tasks in how we provide a copy to our customers. Just to provide a certified copy, we have all of these tasks in here. Believe it or not, this is the revised version. But it allows us, when we lay it out in every single thing that we do, it allows us to identify stressor points for the customers, and it allows us to identify waste, times when we're doing things that we don't really need to do. It doesn't help the customer, it doesn't help us. It's just how we always did it. But it allows us to streamline our processes. And we do this with every single task that we do, every process we have. Next, I want to talk about feedback. Look at your feedback methodologies. How do you get feedback from your customers? Are you making it easy for them to tell you what they want or how you're doing? Each and every feedback method has its advantages and disadvantages. For example, a survey is great, except that you're only going to get, if you're lucky, 25% of surveys back, if you're lucky. And predominantly, people only respond to surveys if they're really happy or really upset. Now you see a picture of our Q-matic response unit. Those are fabulous, but can anybody tell me with a problem with that?
I think it would be, Tracy,
just say it.
Yeah, if somebody says that it's poor, you have no feedback as to why it's poor and then how to execute on remedying that problem.
No way to expand. No way to tell me what was bad. You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. That you have to make it easy for a customer to provide feedback, and it's really best if they can actually say it in their own words instead of just pressing a button. But we at least offer that. Were you happy or were you sad? It's been said that feedback is your customer's gift to you, and your response to that is the gift you give to them.
And Tracy, therein lies the question. There are some people on this webinar that are clearly doing surveying, or their organization's doing surveying, and sometimes I feel like some organizations, they're surveying for the sake of surveying, and then it's not really part of the survey itself, and the responses aren't really part of a process where somebody actually is gathering it, analyzing it, feeding it back to the right people or departments to action on. And I think that a lot of times if there's some follow-up there, especially if the customer is putting something in their own words, they want some kind of follow-up to say, hey, we heard you, and here's what we're doing about it. what is the process as the various areas that you're gathering data? What do you do with it? Because you do this and you don't want it just sitting on shelves. You want it to move the needle. So what's the process where you are with the survey data that's collected?
Well, for example, our Qmatic data tells us how, in general, our customers do, in which, as you would generally guess, they're almost all excellent. But if we start seeing some pours or unacceptables, things like that, then we can actually start watching the video and see what our customers are, how our customers are reacting. We can actually look and see which customer hit an unacceptable and look at the video and see what happened in that interaction. That helps us in our coaching for that particular individual that's customer facing. Another type of survey we do that the city does is an employee engagement survey. Just to give you an example of one of the surveys we do. In our employee engagement survey, we learned 3 things last year, in 2015, I'm sorry. We learned that employees don't have time to eat breakfast, and so the clerk and recorder's office now orders breakfast items, so our employees have the ability to eat breakfast in the morning. Our employees have expressed an issue with travel to get to and from work, because once you get into the city of Denver, there's no place to park or it's very expensive, like $150 to $170 a month just to park your car. So the city has made arrangements with RTD, or the Regional Transportation District, so that we've always had eco passes to ride the buses for $49 a month. Now the city's making it possible that in 2018 we only pay $10 a month for the bus passes, because we expressed a concern about that. So the point being, show that you're doing something about it. Every year, 2017 is an employee engagement survey as well. So once they get the analysis back on that to figure out what people's biggest concerns are, then they take action. That's the important part. Action has been taken on the issues that have been expressed. Thanks for bringing that up. It's the follow-through that matters.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
Oh, sure. Next, I want to talk about your strategic framework, or your strategies, your plans, and what you intend to execute. This one's 2015 to 16 for the clerk and recorder division, but as you can see, the main objectives are right in the center: customer experience, innovation, business process efficiency, and leadership and growth. It's unimportant what it says in the little boxes to you personally, but know that that's where the center has to be. You and every division in the clerk and recorder's office has to turn in their own. So the public trustee has their own. It has to contain those 4 areas. Elections division contains their own. It has to be strategies in those 4 areas. Recording and records management each have to do their own, as does the project manager and the overall division. These are shared with every staff member, so they know this is what we want to achieve. And all of these goals are SMART. Everybody knows what SMART means: specific, measurable, attainable, and timely. Okay? Finally, make sure you're rewarding the right behaviors. Okay, you want continued, and that you're measuring the right stuff. If you want customer service to be your goal, great customer service, don't measure the number of customers that someone sees, because then they're going to strive to just shuffle them in like cattle. How do you reward your teams? Pay is not necessarily the answer, and it's not always the best answer. Think of ways to reward your teams that aren't monetary. Mandatory fun activities. Everybody complains about them, but they end up having fun anyway. Do some strange things that are a little creative. Learning opportunities. Have some Olympics for whatever tasks your crew does. Have a talent show at the staff meetings. We show movie shorts in our break room during lunch hours every once in a while. In the break room because it has a projector so we can project it on the wall. Minions are great movie shorts. Do some scavenger hunts around the office. Just plan some fun activities so that your staff knows that you care about them and that you want them to have a good experience, just like your customers have great experiences.
Hey, Tracy, do you find that employees, as a result of doing some of those things, are they more engaged, or are they just having more fun in the workforce or at their job? Which is it, or is it both?
Yes. I'm just going to say yes, because it's both. Employees that are more engaged in the workplace are happier to be here. If they're having fun at what they're doing, they're going to want to be here. If they enjoy the people they work around, they're going to want to be here. It decreases tardiness, it decreases calling off, and frankly, they sit down and think of creative things that they can do to make it more fun to be here, make it more fun for them, for their customers, all the way around. It's a much more fun place to be.
Perfect. And then Tracy, there was a question, on your strategy slide. I think people are interested in maybe not all the fine print, but just in kind of what those headings are. They're a little hard to see. Are you able to read those off? Maybe some of the goals that you have, or anything that you feel like might be helpful for people who are trying to put together their own strategy or framework?
Sure. First, you're going to list the goals, the actions you're going to do against them, and where they were in 2015 and where they intend to be in 2016. Okay? Because, as I said, this was a couple of years old. But, for example, they've got in innovation, they've got three apps and a legislation that they want to change. In leadership and growth, they've got training, learning. In business process efficiency, ordinances and resolutions, e-recording initiative, documentation, document retention, and then in customer experience, they've got contracts, Qmatic update, digitization and historical preservation, and the microfilm conversion. Those are those customer experience strategies are things that we're still working on now, and they're still on our boards through 2018, because we're in our digitization and historical preservation right now, as well as the microfilm conversion. We're doing those things right now. And the reason we're doing those is so that our customers can actually look up their documents and print them online without actually having to come into town, pay for parking, deal with traffic, and then come into our office, having gone through security, come into our office, go back there and ask for someone to look a document up. They can just get it all from home. They don't even have to deal with this anymore.
So Tracy, I'm just looking at the strategic framework. This is something that I think everyone who's trying to develop a strategy, and certainly a customer service strategy, is always looking for, well, what's the right template? How am I going to decide what areas I'm going to break this down into? So I see that you chose customer experience, innovation, leadership and growth, and business process efficiency as kind of your 4 buckets.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me how you got there? Because I feel like sometimes it's just like you're throwing darts in the dark and hoping you hit something, and it's very hard to get the initial framework structured. So can you take us through how you guys landed on this?
Well, a lot of it has to do with the goals set down from the top, from the mayor's office. As the city, we don't actually directly, we don't answer to the mayor. We're separate from the mayor. But as a city, we have certain goals that we want and objectives we want to achieve. In the clerk and recorder's office, it's always been about and will continue to be about these particular, from this clerk and recorder, it's a elected position, will always be about these particular areas. These are the important things that our management team decided are the core areas that we have to work on and maintain in order to grow as an organization in the city and county of Denver and the services we provide.
So it's really looking at then because the customer service framework in itself is more of a functional strategy within an organization. Even though it touches across the whole organization, everyone's responsible for customer service and customer experience. We really want to look to, okay, what is the mission? What is the strategy or the goal for the organization as a whole? And really kind of use that as our starting point to determine, all right, how are we going to drive this forward in customer experience, and then set these areas and set the specific goals out.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. We don't really do innovation for innovation's point. We innovate specifically for the purpose of helping our customers to get to us or get the services they need easier. For example, in public trustee, we replaced the entire management system of foreclosures because the old system just wasn't, it was just too crunchy. Customers couldn't get through it. The online app wasn't good. The staff had problems with it. So we just replaced the whole thing. We also changed some legislation so that we can do auctions online instead of having them here on site. What that does is that makes the competition for those auctions much greater, yielding more overbid proceeds for the person who lost their house. Gives them more money to get their life started again. We had to do legislation to on those excess funds that we talked about earlier to get them to the state quicker so that those middlemen are out. And then we had to pass legislation for a technical surcharge because we can't do anything without the legislation being passed in order to support it. Leadership and growth, there should, in my opinion, my ever so humble opinion, there should always be a leadership and growth component in your goals. Business efficiency, the same thing.
And so how often do you look at the strategic framework? Do you bring it out once a year, or is this something you meet on quarterly or monthly to just kind of see, because they're all SMART goals, where you are in achieving them?
This is something that the leadership team looks at every management meeting, which is every 2 weeks. The staff it's provided to the staff typically once a year, unless they're specifically involved in one or more of the goals. But it's provided to the staff when it's provided, when it's gone over in a meeting, so everybody actually can ask questions about it, understand their role in it, and that sort of thing.
Okay, got it. Well, while we're on this slide, I'm just going to ask any of the participants, and if you guys have any questions about the strategic framework or building a customer service strategy that you want to post up here, please feel free to do that now. If not, we are going to send out copies of these slides as well as, a link to this recording if you want to go back and reference it, or if you have any questions directly that you want to send off to myself or Tracy through email, we'll definitely give you that information at the end in case this is something that you guys are having questions about or do want to learn a little bit more about.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Tracy, for going back and spending some time on this.
No worries. Again, thank you so much for your time and attention. I'd really like to open it up for any questions you'll have. And encourage you, own your customer experience. That's the bottom line. It's all about you, both internal and external, and be the change.
Okay. All right, I think we've got, let me just see, we've got a, yeah, so this is a great question from one of the participants. And this always pops up in my head too, is, how do you get management buy-in? So how many people do you need to convince? How do you get somebody on side? Because again, customer service doesn't always have a seat at the table when it comes to decision making, spending, all of those things. So, what is it that we can do as change agents, or hope to be change agents in this area, to get buy-in and then start this type of dialogue to begin having people think about customer service as everyone's role and then driving a framework forward?
I recommend, first of all, one-on-one conversations. Find out where your people are. Okay? Once you isolate who's on board, who's not on board, that sort of thing, get where they are. Meaning, you'll have some people that, particularly your management team, that are going to be proposal type people. Great, sit down and write a proposal. Here is exactly what's going to happen. If we do this, then here's the effect. Start with little increments. Okay, I'd like to propose that we make this change and try it for 3 months. Track your results. Then present to them, this is how this went down. Go from a business perspective, especially when you're dealing with managers, because they've had some education. They understand business. They understand your business. Go from a business perspective, write a proposal, recommend it for a certain amount of test time, and show them how improving the customer service in this particular way, small steps. Changing legislation and all that requires them to be on board. Okay? But take small steps to improve your customer service. Start with presentations and training your staff on customer service to get your front-facing people on board with the customer experience. Start there. Start doing classes.
Yeah, I love that idea of not even just the customer-facing people, but if there's an opportunity with you as being a customer advocate, saying, hey, you know what, I'd love to just get everyone to understand, where they fit in the customer experience, because I think that is by far and large, that is one of the largest challenges that we face, is people don't always consider this their job, so they don't really care about it. And until they understand exactly where they fit, where you get people from different departments in a room together and you spend even an hour or two with them to walk through some of the customer touch points and how their job directly affects that. And what happens if you back there in that office and if this goes down or this happens and you're not there, what that can mean, and how it takes it kind of gives them a little bit of a paradigm shift of what their role's all about, and gives them a little bit more of a sense of ownership and pride in how they affect the customer experience. I think that having those conversations is really good. And then certainly from our experience, what we see is, management, to your point, Tracy, yes, a lot of them are very educated and in theory know the world of business pretty well. But I think the struggle always lies is, whoever, they're typically reporting to, whether it's stockholders or the CEO or a combination therein. It's always about what the results are that take on the numbers component. So with what you were saying in the proposal, Tracy, if there's any way you can say, here are 3 things I'm proposing, I'd like us to try for 2018, and here's what I think the financial benefits are. And granted, you can't, a lot of it's going to be a guesstimate, but it's a very educated guesstimate, right? This goes back to one of the things we talk about in the course, which is the financial cost of bad service, but you understand what the challenges are and how making tweaks in these can affect things. So you can say, all right, we're having these errors in this area. This is going to cost us about 40 minutes of someone's time every day. This is how much someone costs us at a daily rate. You take them out for 40 minutes. You can actually calculate a pretty good guesstimated number. So if you can put some numbers around your proposed strategy or your proposed actions, I think that sometimes that gets them more on side, because they can say, yes, I can kind of hang my hat on that if it's going to save us that, or if it's going to generate these additional sales, or we can prove this amount of additional customer loyalty. So for those of you in the for-profit area, I would say, having those conversations about where people fit, and then additionally having them understand with the management team what those things that you're proposing are really going to do for them from a profitability standpoint.
Thank you. That was awesome, Christine. And plus, you should understand that most people consider customer experience as part of the fluffy part of business. Well, that's just the heart stuff, and I'm not comfortable with the heart stuff and being nice and all that. Okay, that's good. It's good that you recognize that. However, it's the fluffy stuff that makes the hard stuff, the cash.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, and this goes to the it always goes back to the emotional experience a customer has. And I know we're going over time, but I'm really passionate about this, because nobody has an interaction during the day where their time or their money is involved, where they are not emotionally connected to that outcome. So, if you go to Starbucks every day and you're spending $5 on your coffee every day, if they don't make it extra hot like you asked for, or they put the wrong milk in, or it's a different, they don't have what you normally go in there for, it completely taints the experience, and you're emotionally connected to your money and your time. So regardless if it's a service or a product, all of that connects back to that fluffy stuff that Tracy's talking about, right? It's always this emotional, we don't go to Disney World so that we can, have a good process happen. We go so that we can build memories, watch our children's face light up. Like, these are all reasons that we do things. So there's always that emotional component that we have to be cognizant of. Why are people interacting with us? Whether it's internal, whether it's external, it doesn't need to just be transactional. And that's key for a lot of your internal team members only dealing with internal customers too. Understanding that it's still an experience that you're having with somebody in your office, and that is going to directly affect whatever communication they're going to have with somebody, and that next somebody could be one of the external customers. So I just think that fluffy stuff, when you can tie it into the monetary component and how it affects your customer and how it affects your employee engagement, that's where you can start to get some of those results. So hopefully that makes some sense. But anyway, I will throw that back out to you, Tracy. I don't think we have any more questions, but I did want to leave it with you in case you want to follow up with anything completing your presentation for this time.
I just really like to thank each of you for participating and for being here. As Christine said, she will get this out to you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'm usually easiest to contact through email. And Christine, please provide my email address. I'm happy to answer questions. And And again, thank you for being here. I have had a wonderful time, and I hope you did as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Tracy. It was terrific. I really appreciate your time. And yes, I'll provide contact details for Tracy as well as myself in the email once the link is ready. So you can expect to see that at the end of the day today or first thing tomorrow at the very latest. And thank you all for your time and your participation. And I look forward to us connecting next time. Thank you.